the dramatic downfall of former South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol, a turning point in Korean democracy. Last month, South Korea's political landscape was thrown into disarray when former President Yoon Suk Yeol declared martial law and was subsequently impeached. His recent detention, extended by 20 days on grounds of possible evidence tampering, has fueled political tensions and sparked widespread protests across the nation. A Seoul court ruled to extend Yoon's detention, citing concerns over potential evidence destruction. This decision ignited violent demonstrations from Yoon's supporters, who stormed the courthouse, smashing windows and doors in a chaotic outburst. Acting President Choi Sang-mok condemned the violence, calling it unimaginable in a democratic society, and pledged to reinforce security at future gatherings. Yoon's legal team labeled the detention extension unjust and vowed to fight the decision, escalating the already volatile political climate. CNN reported that the protests surpassed ordinary expressions of dissent, with hundreds of Yoon's supporters storming the Seoul Western District Court. Protesters used fire extinguishers to attack police, vandalized office equipment, and left the courthouse in ruins. During the chaos, 9 police officers sustained injuries, while 40 protesters reportedly suffered minor wounds. The building suffered severe damage, and live broadcasts of the events on YouTube amplified the public's shock and outrage. Authorities restored order within hours, arresting 46 protesters in the aftermath. The incident has deepened political divides in South Korea. The conservative People Power Party, Yoon's primary support base, expressed deep regret over the court's decision, accusing the government and prosecution of political bias. On the other hand, the Liberal Democratic Party of Korea praised the ruling as a cornerstone for restoring order and denounced Yoon's martial law declaration as a grave threat to democracy. International coverage has underscored the gravity of the situation. The New York Times highlighted the symbolic nature of Yoon's downfall, noting his transformation from a powerful figure hosting lavish parties in the Blue House to an inmate confined to a modest 10-square-meter cell. His meals, consisting of kimchi soup and dried radish, starkly contrast the opulence of his former life. The New York Times also emphasized the irony of Yoon's imprisonment. As a former prosecutor, Yoon had overseen the incarceration of numerous individuals who are now his fellow inmates. The publication described his downfall as a self-inflicted tragedy, symbolizing the broader shifts in South Korean politics. Despite his confinement, Yoon continues to assert his innocence. In discussions with his legal team, he insists that his declaration of martial law was a legitimate exercise of presidential authority. However, the court justified its decision to extend his detention by pointing to the risk of evidence tampering, framing the case as a critical test for South Korea's democratic institutions. The extension of Yoon's detention and the ensuing turmoil have ignited debates about the state of democracy in South Korea. BBC, CNN, and the New York Times have all highlighted the unprecedented nature of the case and its implications for the country's future. While some view the incident as a necessary reckoning for a controversial leader, others see it as a dangerous escalation of political polarization. The international media's focus on Yoon's fall from grace underscores the broader significance of the situation. His actions and their consequences serve as a litmus test for South Korea's commitment to democratic principles and rule of law. The saga of Yoon Suk Yeol is more than a personal failure. It is a watershed moment in South Korean political history. As debates continue to rage both domestically and internationally, the case has become a defining moment for the nation's democracy. The violent protests, polarized political reactions, and global attention signal that the ramifications of this crisis will be felt for years to come. Whether Yoon's actions will be remembered as a grave misstep or a necessary confrontation remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: South Korea's democracy is being tested like never before.